everyone, it's Nick and Ron with another edition of Ask Ron. How are you doing today, Ron?
I'm doing good, man. We're up here in Cleveland at a Dan Kennedy event, you and I, for the last 2 days. Dan Kennedy's my marketing mentor. I've known him since 1990. And by the way, that's evidence that, the old guy still actually attends seminars, not just delivers them.
How much would you estimate, Ron, we spend a year in continuing education on marketing and real estate and stuff like that?
Well, I used to be in his group. It cost $32,000 a year for 3 meetings. And then we were in a couple others at the same time. I don't know, probably somewhere around 75 grand, give or take.
Probably, at least.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've got a few questions from Gold Club members this week. First question is from Omar in Georgia.
Omar.
Says, "Hi Ron, I'm a firm believer in what you teach. I never guarantee the debt when buying real estate, but there's one question which keeps me up at night. What happens to our agreement for sale deal if a seller goes bankrupt or dies after we purchase it and the property gets foreclosed or probate or estate?"
Okay. Well, that's one reason I kind of like to get the deed when I buy, not buy with agreements for sale, or agreement for deed is what they call it in Georgia and Florida. Because with one of those, the title stays in the seller's name, even though they have actually sold the property to you. So if they deed the property to you, the only issue in bankruptcy would be that they would have to name their lender. But on the other hand, you already own the property, you're making payments on it. The trustee has no reason to interfere with that. So frankly, you just see your attorney at that time, but that's not going to affect your ownership just because they filed bankruptcy.
Okay. I'm just reading the rest of his question here, make sure there's nothing else. It says he took a $20,000, I guess, option deposit from the buyer.
Cool.
So he's just worried about what happens there if it gets foreclosed on or probate.
You see your attorney and let them work it out.
All right.
That's why we have attorneys.
All right. Next questions are from Tony and Angie from right here in Ohio, where we are now.
Oh, no kidding. By the way, we're going to leave here, Tony and Angie, and I'm going to Cincinnati to talk all day Friday and Columbus to talk all day Saturday. I don't even know where to tell you to even learn about those events, but I guess you could call our office and somebody could track it down for you.
Yeah, by the time you receive this, the Friday event will probably be over, but Saturday will be the next day. But you've probably received some emails about it already, so hopefully we see you there. Tony and Angie say, if I have a 5-year lease option from the seller and the tenant buyer leaves after 4 years and the seller does not want to extend past 5 years, what do I do?
Seller has 2 choices. Number 1, they can ask you to give them the house back, which you will gladly do. You've already made money on it for 5 years. There's no reason to try to fight them on it. Besides, if you tried to fight them, you'd lose because you're not. That balloon payment is a payment. If you don't make it, you're in default. Remember, you didn't guarantee that debt. So they ain't going to mess with your credit. They ain't going to mess with your financial statement. My second choice is that they extend the term. Now, you tell me which one do you think they're more likely to do. Either way, you've already won, and you'll win more if they extend the term.
Okay. So they say they're 4 years into the 5-year term. They're wondering if they should try to do a 1-year lease option with someone else.
I would. I'd go ahead and put somebody else in there, but I'd probably look for somebody that has a reasonable chance to get qualified within that year, and then I'd push them to do just that. Force them to go into credit repair and keep an eye on the process along the way. In fact, if you go to screenthetenant.com, he will not only clean up their credit for you, he will tell you when they're ready to go to the bank and get a loan. So it's a pretty valuable service that costs you nothing.
All right. Another question from Tony and Angie. If I lease option a house with a 1-year term renewable for 4 times, and if at the end of the 5 years the seller does not want to extend, what happens to the tenant buyer who let his term expire?
Well, I kind of just answered that, but it'd be kind of foolish to have your balloon due before your term with your tenant buyer, wouldn't you? Of course, you can't do that. You got to make your term with the tenant buyer always before the balloon date. And then if the tenant buyer doesn't buy, it's all on them. You gave them plenty of time to buy, so there's really nothing for you to be concerned about it. But I'm telling you, you worry about all these things, they never happen, and when they do happen, they're just not very hard to fix. Just remember, when you deal with a human, you can change that deal later if both you and the human agree it's in both of your best interests.
All right. Veronica in California says, do you recommend or refer attorneys to oversee your transactions?
I use attorneys to close all my transactions, buying and lease optioning or selling. Absolutely. It's a good real estate attorney. That attorney won't represent you in court, but they'll be a witness for you in court if you ever had to go to court. What a great witness, the person who actually closed the deal.
And do you know any in California?
No.
All right, so we do have a lesson on the Gold Club on what questions to ask and how to find a good real estate attorney. So
I don't suppose you remember the title of that lesson.
how to find a good real estate attorney, that would be my guess. That's what I would search for. You know what? We'll put a link below this video to that lesson.
All right. I'm sure there's only about 1,000 videos on there. It should be easy to find.
Veronica, again, who pays for the attorney's fees?
When you're buying, you pay for them. But when you're putting a tenant buyer in there, they pay for them. They bring the money to closing for the attorney's fee, the rest of the deposit, and first month's rent before they get the keys.
All right, Glenn says, how can you be sure the bank, the mortgage holder, will allow the transfer of the debt?
So you're worried about them calling the loan due? First of all, I don't need their permission. You certainly don't ask it because you won't get it. When you buy the house, the seller signs the seller's acknowledgement letter, which I call the CYA letter, acknowledging that the bank would have called a due, you're not personally responsible, and all kinds of other things like, they know you're going to make money and they're not on drugs and they've sought financial advice and yada, 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 yada. That's our CYA letter that goes in the file and stays in there to head off future problems. But I've never had the bank call a loan due. Banks, I'm telling you right now, the last thing on earth the bank wants is a house. It's like them wanting COVID. They do not want defaulted assets because if they get too many of them, the government's going to make them sell or shut them down. And believe me, they do not want real estate. As long as somebody's willing to make a payment on that real estate and keep it in decent condition, the bank has no reason to call a loan due. And by the way, if you ever have one that does call a loan due, contact me. Let me take a look at it. Maybe I can show you how to handle it.
All right, Mondi, why would someone let you take over their mortgage and walk away when they have equity they could try to sell it for?
Well, first of all, if they could sell it, they would sell it and get the equity out. Second of all, quite often they don't even care about the equity. They need the exit. They need the debt relief. I mean, we've got a list this long of why people sell their houses and let you take over their debt or even take owner financing. But I tell you, you got to quit asking why. If you keep asking why, you're never going to get anything done. Why do people take that fentanyl knowing it's going to kill them? Why do they take powder until it suck up their nose until they die? Why do people do all that? In fact, if you think about it, why doesn't everybody list their house with realtors? Okay, why do I need a realtor? I can sell my house. So why don't they sell their house on themselves? Well, they either don't know how or they don't want to. So I'm telling you, I quit asking why about 40 years ago. All I want to know is what and how and when. Remember, I don't ever buy a house from a seller unless they're happy with the deal, okay? If they don't get what they want, I'm not going to get what I want. I don't care why, to be honest with you.
All right, another question from Mondi. Does a mortgage stay in the seller's name?
Yes, until it's paid off.
All right, a question from Nick, not me, another Nick. Most mortgages have a due on sale clause.
I've already answered that.
Okay. How can you take over the mortgage payment without them violating the terms of their mortgage?
Well, they are violating the terms of their mortgage, so what? Bank don't care, I don't care. And, I let people do what they want to do. I don't try to tell them what to do. And again, it's never been a problem for me. Probably on your first deal, though, they'll call it a loan just because you worry about it too much.
Jason says, how are these houses with potential deals being found?
How are they being what?
Found. How do you find
Found.
these leads? Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I got a whole course, a 3-day course that answers that question. I got 2 of them. There's no way I can answer that. It's literally this wide are the ways that you can find houses. In fact, you guys, I hope you signed up for the summit coming up next week because that's one of my topics. And I'm going to show you a whole bunch of ways to find sellers during that free summit. If you're not, get down there and get signed up right now. Starts, what day? 3rd?
August 2nd, 2nd through the 4th.
Yeah, 2nd through the 4th. Got a lot of stuff. I'm teaching about half of it myself and lessons that I designed specifically for this summit. Plus, we're going to give away some cash and prizes and have a lot of fun as well. We're even going to have a piano party online. You'll have to figure out how we're going to do that.
All right. I'll put a link below to sign up for the summit. It's free, right?
Yep, free.
All right. Last question is from Pamela. Pamela says, what do you do about homeowners insurance on these homes?
Well, if you're buying the house, you have to buy the insurance. If I'm putting a tenant buyer in there, I still have to buy the insurance. What you cannot do is use the seller's insurance, because as soon as that deed's transferred to you, it's no good. If they find out that that deed's transferred, they don't have to pay any claim. So you got to get non-owner occupants insurance, and call NREIG, National Real Estate Investor Insurance Group, because they'll give you the best rates, and they will only insure non-owner occupied, but their rates are going to be good, and they don't care how you take title either, by the way.
All right, that is all the questions this week.
Okay, see you next week.